education isn't as rigid as college is. So college doesn't equal education. It doesn't have to take you as long as college takes you in order to learn whatever it is that you're learning. Aloha, folks, and welcome back to Degree Free. Great to have you back. Let's just jump right into it.
All right. What I want to say today is college is not a synonym for education. This has been the theme of my week on TikTok with multiple different comments and multiple different conversations. And I'd like to go over this a little bit more in depth. So I'm going to say this again so people actually hear it. College is not a synonym for education. If you purchase a paper from a college, it is very possible that you will come through that system and be educated, because what you are purchasing is you are purchasing access to information from a business. You can purchase access to information from a business from anywhere. It's 2023. You can educate yourself any which way you want, anywhere you want. So this is something that I've been talking to a bunch of parents this week as I'm going through making our custom career roadmaps for teenagers who are about to graduate high school. And this is something that's come up multiple times because as these parents and these kids have been going through and sorting through what jobs and what skills are going to make sense for them in order to make a living, because their main objection to college right now is just the cost. And most people can't justify it because the cost is just far too high. And something else too I've noticed is as I'm having these conversations, Gen Z, and I think it's Gen Alpha, I'm calling you guys kids, but you're not really, you're new adults. That's what we're going to call you. But these young and new adults are very much extremely aware and extremely price sensitive to the cost of college, which is something that's really surprising to me because I feel like when I was that age, I was not nearly as financially literate as these kids, but they're very much columns looking at the cost and doing the math and just saying, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. They're afraid of the debt. And that is very interesting to me. It's just something that most people wouldn't know unless you sit down and you talk to them about this decision. And I've been able to have that opportunity over the past week. But I was having a conversation today with an 18-year-old girl and her mom. And when I was having this conversation, after we sorted through the skills that she's going to be learning, we talked about how she can further her education outside of her work and career. And this is something that I care very much about because I patently just reject the idea. And I reject this idea because it's just not correct. But college does not have a monopoly on education. They are not the gatekeepers. You can't paywall education. That's not something you can do. Education is something that anyone can pursue any way and anywhere they choose. Colleges do not own it. They never will, they never have, and they still don't. And this was a really cool conversation we had today because we talked about basically a menu of options where her daughter could continue her education outside of work. And so a couple of the options that I went over was these are just well-rounded academic skills that truthfully, they don't really teach in college, but public speaking is a big one. I know sometimes you get to give presentations and stuff like that, but you can join Toastmasters or a local public speaking group and work on your presentation skills, work on being polished and professional and being able to present to a group of people. This day and age, if you can articulate your ideas and you can speak to a group of people, you have a superpower. I struggle to do this. I can speak on camera, but I really have a hard time speaking in front of a group of people because that is an extremely valuable learned skill that you just have to polish, and it takes education to do that. Another example was language. Language meetups are extremely prevalent, and if you self-teach in a way that is, like I said, has never been so available with all of the apps and all of the software that's available now. But if you start self-teaching a language and then you go to a language meetup frequently, you can learn a language much faster than you would if you're learning it in a formal class. But if you are cash flow positive and you are not under the weight of student debt and you're not under the weight of trying to take this ridiculous course load that's full of classes that you don't need, that you don't even care about learning, that you're doing because you must in order to get this 4-year degree that takes you 5.5 years, you can actually pursue other things. You can take chess to learn critical thinking. You can start dance classes. You can take music lessons. You can take singing lessons. You can take painting classes. These are all things that if you are making money and you are not strapped learning something that you're not interested in, that you don't care about, that's not actually part of the education that you want to create for yourself, You don't have to. And using that time, mental energy, and money, you can actually educate yourself and tailor your education in a way that you would like to and become an extremely well-rounded person. And then not even just add to this list reading. You can just read. And I know a lot of people in college, you read, but you only read what you're supposed to read. You don't actually read things that you care about. So I'm just very passionate about this topic. So
yeah, that's awesome. You came out swinging there. I have a bunch of things that I want to get to myself. What's funny is I was just like, well, are we going to start this episode? How are we going to start this episode? I'm just trying new things. So please, everybody, let me know how you would like me. If you have been listening to this podcast for a while, let me go to YouTube and tell me if you like when I do the hello folks, welcome back to Degree Free, and kind of just do the intro, or if you just want to jump right into it like how we did today. I'm not sure how I felt about it, and I wasn't really sure how we were going to come into it, but you just came out swinging. So that was great. There is a lot that I wrote down while you were talking, and there's a lot that I wanted to get to myself. I have a few points that I wanted to get to this week as well. But as far as, you're talking about like the rows and columns of the new adults, the rows and columns, and the reason why for everybody listening, new adults, young adults, we're still workshopping a name, something similar to Degree Free. The reason why we have to create this new language is because there is this widely accepted term, college-aged kids, which is just crazy. And we all know what college-age kids are. They're supposed to be 18 to 22, but really it's like 18 to, 26, 18 to 35.
When I hear that term too, college age kids, when I hear the term college age kids, it makes me cringe. It makes me feel like I want to shake people and go, how would you feel if they said these are fruit roll up age kids? That's a crazy thing to say. Oh, these are Lucky Charms age kids. You know what I mean?
You're saying like to associate it with a business.
Yes, it's so insane. Like these are diesel fuel adults. What in the world is that?
That's awesome.
That's crazy, yeah?
Yeah.
Is that not insane? Anyway, that's how it sounds to me when
agree.
How in the world have we let an industry just be like, yeah, these are ours?
Yeah.
What are
That's
you
awesome.
talking about?
Good for them.
Yeah, no, because they just checked a default. They're like, oh yes, default, college age adults. What are you doing?
Getting back to those new adults and what you were talking about with the rows and columns and how they are much more analytical about the decision to go to college. My first thought after you said that is I wonder if it is sort of like skipping a generation. Right. So like I think of it like generational wealth, whereas like they say wealth skips a generation. And the theory is that, well, this poor person had to work their way up from nothing. Right. This poor person had to work their way up. They had that hunger in their belly, and it was that hunger that made them successful and made them wealthy, made them rich, whatever rich means to you. And because they had that, they were able to become rich. And now their progeny, offspring, whatever, their kids are not hungry. They don't have that fire in their belly.
Because they've never been hungry.
Exactly. And because their parent, the poor person who is now rich, doesn't want their child to go through the same thing that they had to go through. They don't want them to have to go through and be like, oh man, I have like this 47-cent ramen, and that's my food for today and tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I better split this thing in half. And like, they don't want them to go through that. And so they're just going to provide. But because of that, they don't have that hunger in their belly. They're fed. And because they're fed, they're satiated. And then it doesn't go well where they're trying to create wealth for themselves. That's the theory, at least. And then the next, they become poor or they don't steward their money well. And then their children
are hungry again.
And so they become wealthy. So in that same vein, I wonder how much of it is college is such an institution now, and the access to college has never been greater because of student loans, whatever it was, 52, 67, one of those years.
Yeah, 67.
And they made federal student loans, right? And so because of that, now we are seeing generations that have had access to college. Whereas prior to that, a lot of people didn't have access to college. And we've talked about this before. That is where, at the time prior to the internet, that is where the knowledge was. They had the laboratories, they had the libraries, they had the books.
Physically, yeah.
Exactly. They had the computers. That is where the knowledge was. And so that's where people went. And so when the access started to open up, people flooded in. And then they flooded in, they got their degrees, and then it turned out great for them. It turned out great. That's awesome. It turned out so great that when they had kids, they told their kids to go to college, right? And then their kids told their kids to go to college. Anyway, the whole point of this is that my thought is, after hearing that, is their parents, the parents of these Gen whatever, these new adults.
Yeah, so they're Gen X, the parents that I'm talking to.
They got burned by the college system. They got burned and took on all this debt. Their eyes are open to the system. And because their eyes are open to the system, because of their own life experiences, their parents made them go to college, right? And they said, your life is going to be better because you go to college, because their life was better because they went to college, right? But then we've talked about this many times before.
When there's 8% of the population that had college degrees.
And the decision that they made to go to college was 40 years ago.
Right. It's all the way in the past, which, by the way, people, is how they sell the value of college now. They're using the stats of the baby boomers and the silent generation who went to college.
So you're giving advice 40 years in the past, 30 years in the past.
Like, yeah, look at how successful this was 40 years ago.
Literally a generation behind. And so, because, if they're 18-year-old kids, I'm assuming that their parents are in the 25 years old. So 18, so somewhere in the 45 range, let's just say in the 40s range. Their parents went to college, it worked out well for them, forced their kids to go to college, which is the parents now. And they were like, wow, this didn't work out for me. And whatever it is I'm doing now doesn't actually require the college degree. It doesn't require the debt, and it is spiraling out of control. And that is why the kids nowadays are looking at it at a much more analytical thing, I think. I'm not sure.
I think you're right. And honestly, what's so crazy about that is you, without having talked to these parents, have pretty much nailed on the head exactly their professions as well, which is they don't require college degrees. A lot of them have them, but then they had to go into something else.
Because that's everybody. That's everybody of that generation.
Right. I just read a stat that said 27% of people actually end up working anywhere near their major. And that's after all of that. It's a 27% chance that you're going to end up needing that degree.
I wanted to talk about a couple more things, just pull at the thread a little bit more before we switch topics. You were talking about being educated, and you were talking about these general life skills that one should have in order to be educated. The way that I think about it is like well-rounded. Is well-rounded really what we need now? Doesn't matter is the point. So I don't have a horse in this race, right? All I know, or all I think I know, is that soft skills matter, right? And so where do soft skills fall within this, right? Does that mean you're well-rounded, or is that a specific set of skills that's different? I'm not sure. But this reminds me of a conversation that you and I had a year plus ago with a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. And we were talking about people in the job market today and whether or not they needed to be well-rounded or not. And this CEO, the company that he runs, is very much in the job space. His finger is on the pulse of everything that's happening in the job space and what skills are necessary and who's getting hired and everything like that, which is why he got in contact with us, which is he completely agrees with what we were saying because he can see it in his data of his company.
Yeah,
right?
real quick, before we go into more of this too, is the thing that stood out the most from that conversation was he told us that companies do not hire people that look like their job descriptions. That was the biggest takeaway, other than the fact that also he was just a super cool person. But the biggest takeaway from that conversation was companies do not hire people that look like their job descriptions. There's a complete and utter disconnect between what they post and who they hire.
Yep, absolutely. And that's awesome because he has the data on that.
Yeah, this is not a guess. This is not a hunch. This is him looking at extremely high quality, extremely far reaching data and saying, that's not what they do. That is not their behavior. They can say whatever they want. That's not what they do.
This is the job description. This is all the requirements, quote, requirements that it says. This is the description that it says. And this is the resume of the candidate that you actually hired. And then they match that up. And they do that however many times they do that. A lot. Because there's a lot of people on the platform. And companies don't hire, which is why he reached out, like I said, which is why he's like, yeah, this degree-free thing absolutely is true, has legs. You don't need to go to college. It's not really necessary to do that in order to get hired and have a good job. What we were talking about in the context of what you were talking about, which is general education, is what he sees is that in the job market now, people are getting hired for singular skill sets much, much more. And so what he called, it was pointy people, which is people that have skills in one area. So once again, there's a basis of skills that you need, which is you need the soft skills. As we've talked about many times on this podcast, soft skills is what's going to matter in the future with AI coming in and taking everybody's jobs, quote, right? Soft skills is what's going to matter. So that's just the basis of what we need. And now if you have that, do you really need to be rounded on the other ends, or do you need to go and just learn a set of skills that are in one domain?
So this is a really important conversation because this is the crux of the issue, because colleges want to have their cake and they want to eat it too. They want to say, you have to buy this thing in order to get a job. That's not true. That's not true at all. So now they have to say, we are education, right? So they have to be both. And in reality, they are neither. And so what's happening is people are confusing and conflating these things together. So these are two separate questions, I think. Do you need to be a well-rounded person in order to get work? No. Do you want to be a well-rounded person for yourself to be an educated person because you value education, you value the act of being educated, you value the pursuit of education, and you want to be someone who has a breadth of knowledge about certain things that you believe to be the qualities of someone who is an educated individual. And that, I think, is a different thing entirely.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure where that second one comes into play other than your own ego, right? Like
it doesn't. It's completely internal, I think. And that it's important though, because this is where you have to address this, because people feel like if they don't buy a college degree, they're risking the ability to get a job, and then they're risking their ability to be educated. They think that they can have neither of these two things, and both are untrue. And that's why it's important to separate them and address them both separately, which is why we're talking about this now, because it comes up a lot.
Then the last point that I wanted to talk about with this first thing that we're talking about is that education isn't as rigid as college is. So college doesn't equal education. It doesn't have to take you as long as college takes you in order to learn whatever it is that you're learning. Hey there, I hope that you're loving this episode of the Degree Free Podcast. We spend a ton of time every week creating this content for you. So my only ask is you take a quick second to leave a review or a thumbs up on whatever platform you're on. It's one of the best and easiest ways that you can support this podcast, and this simple action can help bring more people into the Degree Free community. At Degree Free, we want to help as many people as we can thrive and succeed without needing a college degree. Your review will be a step in that direction. If you could do this small favor right now, pause this and leave a review. It would truly mean the world to us. Thank you, and back to the show. So what I mean by that is that Calc 1, Calc 2, that's your first semester, that's your second semester. It's a year-long thing, let's say. Okay? Can you learn Calc 1 and Calc 2 faster than 4 months and 4 months? Maybe, if you put your mind to it and then you do it, right? Okay, so you learn everything that there is to know about Calc 1 and Calc 2 in 4 months, and then now you're moving on instead of taking a whole year, right? Education isn't rigid. Education is actually extremely, extremely pliable and extremely, extremely flexible. It takes as long as it takes you to learn the skill or to learn the knowledge. A good example is, for me, in my experience, becoming an EMT. In order to be a firefighter, I needed to go through EMT school, just like how a lot of people have to go to EMT school. In Hawaii, there is a 2-year program at the local community college that teaches you how to become an EMT and how to pass the National Registry of EMTs, how to pass the EMT certification. It takes 2 years, right? And then there are classes all around the country that do it in like a few months or so, right? Maybe a few weeks. I did mine in 6 weeks.
So it takes 6 weeks to get licensed, or a college can prolong it 2 years.
It didn't take 2 years to become an EMT. It took 6 weeks. That's how long it took.
Which begs the question, why is it 2 years?
Because it has to fit in their rigid structure of semester, 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 semester. And then you're taking gen ed courses all along the way.
Even though your result is the same.
It's exactly the same. And I know that this is the case because when I got hired as a fireman, I was friends with somebody that was going through this EMT school at the local community college. And they were in their first year. By the time that I had graduated my, recruit training or my fire academy, 8 months later from my time of hire, I already had my EMT and I was also a firefighter. So I lapped this person, and this person just finished their first year of community college and they're in summer. And I was like, dude, that's crazy because I can go work on a rig right now and you're doing this for 2 years and then you're taking art classes too. If the point is to become educated and then pass this thing
for a job skill.
Yeah, for a job skill, then why don't you just go do that? But not even a job skill, but just a skill or a knowledge, right? I mean, if you're trying to learn Spanish, well, why don't you just go learn Spanish?
But also, why is it limited to the span of a college too? Because if you want to learn Spanish for 10 years and you want to keep learning Spanish because you want to just get really, really good at Spanish, you're not limited to whatever parameters a college sets. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know who said it, but it was a
Mark
guest
Twain.
on, yeah, exactly. Abraham Lincoln.
That guy's always saying things.
But Thomas Jefferson, I think it was somebody on Tim Ferriss's podcast or something like that, which is the average time frame to learn something is for chumps.
Oh, I like that.
So whatever the average is, you look at that and be like, okay, I can do it in half the time.
That's laughable.
Basically.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's possible. And I think that's exactly right. College doesn't equal education, especially because education is much more fluid than fitting in within 4.5 months here, 4.5 months there, and then summer, right? You can do all of it at one time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more.
So moving on, I wanted to talk about something from a report that the World Economic Forum put out, the Future of Jobs Report 2023. I'll stop right here for a second. This thing is a behemoth. It's 296 pages. It's crazy. I mean, most of it's pictures, which is good for me, but they're not the good kind of pictures. They're graphs, they're bar charts.
That's not a
they're
picture.
pie charts.
Those are not the same thing.
Right. It's a visual graphical representation of data.
That don't mislead the people. You made them think it was a picture book.
Which is nice, but it's still a lot of reading. And so I went through and skimmed it because I didn't read it. I went through and skimmed it so you don't have to.
Give us your educated take.
Yeah. And so, no, what was really awesome about this is that there are basically, I'm going to talk about the 7 jobs that are disappearing the fastest.
Are they like the 7 dwarfs?
Right.
Sleepy, sneezy.
Yeah, exactly. And so they are disappearing the fastest, but I won't bury the lead. Basically, there are a lot of jobs that are going away or at least decreasing. The good part about it, it's not good for the people that are in these jobs, but the good part about it is that it is following a very predictable pattern of jobs that are decreasing. And we've been talking about it for a long time on this podcast about the implications of AI, which is a lot of what this report is talking about, which is generative AI is picking up. It is coming into the workforce. And we did that whole deep dive into that LinkedIn AI report. I think it was their future of work report as well. And so it is happening right underneath our noses as we speak. But if you're listening to this podcast, you know that there is a trend of the jobs that are out there that are disappearing. And so if you're in one of these things, you can start transitioning out now. You can
see it coming.
Exactly. And so the 7 jobs are going to be, the first one, we talked about this in an episode and I feel very good about it. It is bank tellers.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so once again, what's crazy, right, is that bank tellers, the invention of the ATM machine, more bank tellers than ever, even though people thought that there'd be less bank tellers. But now with online banking and AI, less bank tellers.
It wasn't the ATMs that got the bank tellers. It was the apps, folks. Exactly.
Yeah, it was the apps and now AI helping a lot with the customer service and
chatbots.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of chatbots out there. If you're listening to this, you have absolutely interacted with one and you've probably wanted to shoot yourself in the head.
Yeah.
It's like,
oh man.
Just no, 0. Press 0.
Round.
Let me chat with a human.
Person.
Yeah. And so the next one is going to be secretaries and administrative assistants, which I see making sense because I imagine that majority of secretaries and administrative assistants are in, I don't know what else to say, so I'm just going to say it. And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but I'll just say low skill type of secretaries and administrative assistants. It's a lot of managing different tasks and managing very easily explained projects. And if it's something that's easily explained and easily repeatable and executable, then that is ripe for AI to come in and disrupt.
Is that physical? I wonder if the virtual assistants are on the rise, though. I wonder if outsourced assistants, virtual people, are actually being hired more.
I'm not 100% positive, but I would wager a large amount of money that virtual assistants, which are just assistants just over the internet in a different time zone, probably in a different country, is absolutely on the rise. The reason why is very simple, really. It's just cost, right? I mean, it's just cost. The arbitrage that you can get for your money in another country is huge. It just cost.
And I was thinking of all the new businesses and small businesses, and they need help and they do need those things. They just can't afford the labor cost of hiring somebody to do that in that way.
I don't know if it was a article I read or something or a podcast I was listening to. I think it might have been a podcast I was listening to, but they were talking about a dental office. So that's a brick and mortar business. They had a really, really hard time getting a front desk or like a receptionist.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a hard time and it was really expensive. You had to pay insurance and everything like that. And so what they did was they hired a virtual assistant, and I'm using air quotes here. They hired somebody in the Philippines to sit there on a iMac all day in front of a webcam.
What in the Black Mirror?
And check people in.
That's great.
And so this person is on all day, just like how a physical receptionist would be. And they are checking people in over the internet. And so this person, even though they're living in the Philippines, they work on US time. When the person, hey, how are you doing? They talk story, they make chit chat, they check them in because it's all, and then they're like, okay, the doctor will see you now.
Cool.
And then they let them in. Crazy, right?
Yeah. Cool though.
Yes. And so there's 2 factors and I want to come around to. I think, yes, higher than ever, virtual assistants because of the cost. Also, virtual assistants, for them, their labor has never scaled more because on their side, they are using AI to fulfill all of the tasks that they were doing, right?
Sure.
And so their labor now scales even more.
Many agencies almost.
Yes. And then secondly, the stigma of doing it and the technology, the stigma has come down and the technology has caught up. Right. So it's never been easier to communicate with people that are across the world. Right. There's Slack, there's Google Chat, there's Zoom, there's all of these different meeting and management tools out there for you. And then the stigma of doing that a lot of it has to do with COVID and everything going remote. All of that is way down and non-existent anymore.
Right. So now that's just revolutionary instead of strange.
What I wanted to say about the secretaries and administrative assistants, though, is the one subset of this that I do not think is going away
Executive.
are executive assistants.
Yeah, they're going to get paid more than ever. They're going to be more valuable than ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The executive assistants are going to be more valuable than ever.
Yeah. All I saw when I heard that, I was like, that just means that the people that remain in that field are just going to be extremely high paid.
Exactly. And it's because they are going to be so necessary and so good at their job. And we're talking about executive assistants for executives, right? For C-suite people, maybe, you know, vice president level. They are doing a lot of management for these people, and those people are going to be more necessary than ever.
Yeah.
I believe.
I agree with you. It's funny you had that thought. I had the same one.
Yeah. Especially with all the VAs, right? So that one executive
Can
might
manage
have
an army.
might have 5 VAs underneath them.
Yeah.
But then they don't want to deal with that because they're running the company. And so their executive assistant is running an army of VAs for this one person.
I wonder how many EAs have EAs. I would love to, if you know anyone that is an executive assistant that has an executive assistant, please send them our way. I would be so interested in how that works because that would be a cool story.
So the third is going to be cashiers. That's obvious, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we see that.
It's been for years.
In the US, you see that everywhere. One, it just makes sense. It's cheaper for the stores to have these, you know, corrals.
Yeah.
Right.
Like 6 registers.
It's cheaper. It's
put
one
the bag
it's
over
one
your head.
Yeah, put the bag. If nobody
Told you I'd get him to do it.
The Family Guy episode of that with the self-checkout machines are like trying to make Peter suffocate himself with the bag. It's hilarious. And that's like 10 years old now, I think.
It's still fun.
Because I haven't watched Family Guy in years.
Yeah.
Long time. So cashiers, it makes sense. There's one cashier, whereas before you would have needed 6. So it's a 6 of the cost. And then you're not only that, but you're getting like 20x the efficiency, just also having to do with the way that those lines work, right? Instead of having one line, like you ever go to like Ross or something?
Oh my gosh.
No, but what I'm saying about Ross is that they do one thing right, which is they have one central line or queue.
And then they move you to the respective cashier.
Exactly.
But usually there's only
it's like,
one.
right. Yeah,
it's like not really.
Right. Or like bank tellers or something like that. But bank tellers do the same thing. In banks, there's one central line, and then you go to the next available.
Correct.
And that's the correct way to do it as far from a efficiency standpoint.
Sure.
That's how you're supposed to do it. But for some reason, we don't do that. But
at self-checkouts, you do.
At self-checkouts, you do. So not only are you getting the efficiency and the higher revenue per square foot, like you've shrunk down the square footage, you have 20 checkout registers instead of only having 4 in the same amount of square footage. So there's just efficiencies all the way down and up.
But you know what though? I think about the cashiers, and I will say, I'm about to out our state, but we live in Texas, and I know that at the HEBs, we love the heap. Everybody loves the heap, which is a moment of appreciation for the heap.
If you know about the heap, leave a comment at YouTube immediately. Stop this. Even if you're listening on audio, stop this right now, pull over on the side of the road and comment on YouTube. I was in Arizona. I'm sorry, this is going on a tangent.
An ode to the heap.
I was in Arizona.
We know it's called HEB, guys. We know.
I was talking to my friend who's also from Hawaii, who is living in Arizona, and I was telling him, like, oh yeah, there's this store called HEB. We were walking out of the men's restroom, and we just finished up a round of golf, and there were these guys that were just sitting down on the couches right outside of the HEB. And I'm just going to say it didn't matter. They were feminine, but it's a very crucial part of the story.
Everybody knows that if you get this stamp, you're like, okay.
Yeah, I think they were gay. And not that matters. I don't care.
It makes it more important.
But it matters to the story because I'm like walking. I was like, yeah, HEB is like the best. As I'm walking out of I push the door to exit. And then one of the guys in the chairs, he's just like, oh my God, HEB. I love HEB. HEB is the best. And I was just like, see, I told you.
And he immediately got the stamp, and it's a gold stamp, and it's really good.
Yeah. And I was just talking to my friend for like the last 10 seconds about HEB. He just wasn't getting it. He was like, I don't get it. It's just a grocery store, right?
And he got an endorsement.
Yeah, right. Exactly. What's funny is that once my friend heard that, his whole demeanor changed. He was like, oh,
wow.
so it's like, it's like a thing. Like, I don't get it though, but like, explain it to me anyway. HEB, love it.
We love it.
Whatever it is that you're doing right now and comment. Drop a heart for HEB.
Yeah, you guys know. My point that I was going to make is even since we've been here, I have actually noticed less cashiers, but more of the shoppers, right? The labor's just moving around the store, I think.
You're talking about shoppers for people that are doing curbside pickup or delivery.
Yeah.
You're talking about the people that are going to the store that have the big racks and they're picking.
Yeah.
It's basically a pick and pack. Basically. Yeah. It's literally pick and pack.
Yeah. And there's way more of them than there were when we got here a couple of years ago.
Well, yeah, definitely. And that has to do with the cashiers. I'm sure. Right?
But they're probably not laying them off. They're just moving them.
Well, it's the same thing. Why it makes so much sense for the grocery stores to do that and to push that, because once again, you're not coming into the store and taking up any of their resources, right? Like you're not taking up any of their resources at all. And their like revenue per square foot just skyrockets if they weren't going to get that purchase from you anyway. Right? If that's the thing that's keeping you from coming into our store, which is you have to get out of your car and actually come in and like decide on the things that you want, I'm going to make this really easy for you. But it's a major win for them because their revenue per square foot just goes up. It's the same thing with fast food restaurants have been doing this for generations. Mm-hmm. They've been doing this for a long time now because what I'm talking about is a drive-through. They've doubled down, tripled down on the drive-through because they can have smaller and smaller footprint actual restaurants, and then their drive-through scales almost infinitely. I mean, you see it at McDonald's and other drive-thrus. They now have 2 places where you can order. They have 2 places where
have you been to a Chick-fil-A? The Chick-fil-A's got like 4 lanes. I don't know what those people are doing over there, but
and so
like, what's happening here?
You can go and you can order, and it makes sense because you weren't going to go and sit down in the restaurant anyway. They don't want you to go and sit down in the restaurant anyway, because then you're going to have to go use the restroom, and then you're going to use their toilet paper and their water and their paper towels and their hand soap. They don't want that.
But now,
go eat in your car. Just go be lonely. Go to a park and just stare at the steering wheel.
Oh my gosh. We have strong feelings about eating in the car. It can either be really sad or really nice depending on how busy you are. There's really no in between. It's just either really sad or like really nice.
Okay, I want to get through this.
Okay, what's the next one?
The next one is postal service workers.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Postal service workers.
That's because the post office has never made money ever.
Well, they're losing money and they've always lost money. So, I mean, that makes sense.
That's kind of what they do.
Well, because they're such an essential part of everyday life, but they also run at a deficit. The want and the need to find efficiencies in that is incredible. Right? I mean, what if in a perfect world, we didn't have to go to the post office anymore? And I'm sure they're trying to figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah.
Right. So you just have a scale at home, right? And then you weigh your stuff and then you buy postage and then you drop it.
It's an Amazon scale.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You know,
Jeff Bezos is going to own the post office.
Yeah. The next after that is going to be bookkeeping, accounting, and auditing clerks.
Sure.
Makes sense.
AI.
Yeah, well, it's a very,
QuickBooks
what did we just
software.
talk about before, which is they're repeatable tasks.
Yeah.
They're easily defined, repeatable tasks. And anybody that has ever spent any time in QuickBooks or, Wave or any of these other small business or bookkeeping softwares knows what a godsend some of these category match things are. And so it's like, oh, well, you spent money at this company, at Amazon.com, and that's usually office supplies. Would you like to just put all Amazon.com purchases in office supplies? And you're just like, yep, sounds good. and then you just move all those over, and then like half of your thing is done already. It's not perfect yet, because you still have to like drill down and you'll be like, well, what did I buy at Amazon? Oh, okay, well, this is actually like a movie rental for, Prime. It's like, sorry, that's not supposed to be on there. And so you just move that off, right? And then like, this is for office supplies, and then now this one is actually for meals and entertainment or whatever. And so
you can tell who runs the bookkeeping in our house.
Well, yeah. And so what this AI is going to do is that it's going to be able to drill down to that second level, and it's going to be able to automatically sort and categorize that stuff for you. So you don't have to do anything.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. The next thing is going to be information clerks.
Does that not fall under bookkeepers or admin?
No. Information clerks. It's weird, right? Like, what the hell is that? Information clerks are going to be like what we were talking about, like receptionists, but like for hotels.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
Like hotels,
sure.
Motels, Holiday Inns, file clerks, record clerks. So like, I think to myself, when I was working in commercial credit, I had to go and get files down in the storeroom, right? And so we'd go down to the storeroom, and there's like a literal like half door, those 2-stage doors.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so they would open up the top when they were in, and then you would put the order form of like what the docs that you needed were in. That's what they're saying. Like, those people that helped me retrieve the docs, those people are going to be...
Because it's all going to get digitized.
Right. It's all going to be digitized, which actually a massive thing. People don't realize it too, that the amount of times I've encountered that as a business problem is huge, to the point where people just go, yeah, we would love to pay somebody $20 an hour to come in and scan our documents. So if anyone's ever looking for a side hustle, you can just go to some law office and be like, hey, do you have documents that you want to have scanned in? I'll charge you $20 an hour. Yeah, you're going to have to figure out if you do this. I mean, I literally did this. This was one of my first jobs. So one of the things that you have to think about is you have to know whatever field that you're going to do for this electronic content management or for contract management, whatever it is, you're going to have to know the rules of the game for whatever business that is.
Yeah.
And so law offices, they have to stand up to like a certain code, security code. Healthcare, it has to be HIPAA.
And they have to keep them for a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Mortgages, it's something else. And so if you get into this game, it probably makes sense that you learn the rules of like law offices in your area or in your state.
And you just go after law offices.
And then you just go after those at first, because
you know the rules.
Right. You know the rules there. And then if you wanted to, you could just go for a completely like not as regulated industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could go to
a plumbing company that has a lot of invoices like laying around and stray stuff.
Right. Or, you're talking about like construction companies. There's a lot of invoicing. There's a lot of paperwork. There are a lot of contracts, right?
Yep.
You can go to like design firms, right?
Ooh.
Like those
different versions. Holy crap.
Like agencies are really
paper heavy.
Yeah, really, really paper heavy.
Doc heavy, I should say.
But then if you also go to like an actual brick and mortar place that sells really, mid-tier products to a lot of people. So we're talking about like in the $1,000 to maybe like $100,000 range, maybe like $5,000 to like $100,000 range. Usually, depending on like just in that range, those are more expensive products. So there's usually it's not always the case, but there's usually going to be more paperwork involved with those things. And so like
roofing.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever it is, just in that price range, you're going to have more paperwork because the sales process is longer. Right. The lead time to close a sale on those things are usually longer. And so those are good places to start.
Yeah, that is.
If you're going to go into that.
Good guidelines.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I just wanted to bring this up for people that are in these industries right now. Now you have an idea and you can focus on upskilling and getting out of these roles, transitioning out of these roles. And the transition can happen in many ways. You can work your way up in that company. You can transition out to a different company doing a different role. Right? It can come in many different ways. But now that you know that it's probably coming down the pipeline where we are going to see these job categories shrink and detract.
Get ready.
Right, exactly. And then for those people, that have kids and they're looking at their first job, I don't think it's going to happen like overnight.
No, I think those are good entry-level roles.
Exactly. So if you're looking at the like first job, it's fine.
Your first job's not your last job, people.
If there's going to be the
very rare
cashier at a local grocery store or at a Walmart or something,
they're not going away overnight.
It's fine. The room to grow, right? Like, but you're saying, well, the industry is detracting. Why would we want them to go into a dying industry or, shrinking job? It's because they will have room to grow if they internalize it, right? And I've said this before on a few episodes back, but if we think about room to grow, if we think about that and we just say, I'm going to be in charge of growing. It's my mindset and my skill set that I'm going to continue to grow and I'm going to continue to be more valuable and more valuable and more valuable. If you can internalize that and then you can act on those things, there's no way that you stay a cashier for the rest of your life.
No.
There's no way.
No.
Even if that is going away.
Yeah.
It's just a stepping stone. It's the first job. It's your next job, whatever it is. You know what I mean? But it's not your career.
Yeah. Your career is where you go. It's not where you start.
Man, these episodes are going by really, really quickly. I hope that people like these episodes. Really, I hope that you think that we're prepared, but we prepare things separately and then we come to talk about them. These are more electric for us. We enjoy these more because it's more of a conversation, but I also can understand from a listener's perspective. I listen to a lot of podcasts that maybe it's like, oh, you just like to hear the sound of your own voice. And we make these podcasts for you. You're listening to this. So I want to know how we're doing. Leave us a comment on YouTube and let us know if you like this or if you want us to tighten it up. And I actually have like 6 more things that I wanted to talk about today, but I think that this is a good place to end.
Yeah, I think so too. And if you do find anything interesting or come across some studies, anything that you think that we should see, send it to us because we'd like to cover it.
Yeah, absolutely. Leave a comment in the YouTube about different topics, different ideas that you want us to dive into. It really, really helps to prepare this. And like I said, we make this episode for you.
If you want to get more of this type of content, if you want to know more about the changing landscape of jobs, work, and education, then go ahead and go over to degreefree.co/newsletter to sign up and get our free weekly newsletter.
Yep. And that's pretty much it for this week. Until next time, guys. Aloha.